Welcome to the New to Wrestling podcast, where I, your host, Xavier Cruz, a lifelong wrestling fan, will take a lifelong friend through the action, the joys, and the drama of the world of professional wrestling. My co-host, Kelsey Silva, has been bitten by the wrestling bug, and I want to invite you to join us as I take her through the moments that made me a fan. So if you're new to wrestling and would like to get brought up to speed, or a fan who would like to relive some classic matches, promos, and segments through fresh eyes, join us as we embark on a journey through the Attitude Era and beyond. Welcome to the New to Wrestling podcast. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the New to Wrestling podcast. This week, we watched the September 23rd, 1996 edition of Monday Night Raw, and the match card is as follows. We had Farouk versus the Wildman Mark Miro in the final for the Intercontinental Championship Tournament. We had the Body Donnas versus the new WWF Tag Team Champions, the British Bulldog and Owen Hart. We had Hunter Hearst Helmsley versus the Stalker. All right, so let's get into this episode because there was a lot more questions than answers in this.
100%.
So it opens up to a flashback to the night prior in Your House Mind Games, where we see kind of photos of the attack on Savio Vega, where they kind of blurrily kind of zoom into the two figures that we couldn't identify, that were, we were told that it was Razor Ramon and Diesel, but again, we saw figures running around a corner, so...
And the photo is very like spectator saw Bigfoot in the woods, or like a blurry like street cam, like of someone who robbed a convenience store, like, have you seen this man? Like, it was just kind of weird.
Right.
Super weird, which I guess intentional because they don't want you to see who it actually is, because it's not the people you think it is.
And JR, for the first time of about 400 million in this episode, opens up with saying, "I told you so," and like, he never hoodwinked anybody, and this was really kind of his episode to get his vindication, or at least he felt that way.
And I know we'll get there, but JR was wiling this episode. Wiling.
He was like getting into it with almost every other commentator.
Everyone. They were beefing. The girlies were beefing at the announcement table every single match, like about something that wasn't even happening. Like, they were just beep bickering the whole episode.
Time. He had something in his craw like the whole time. All right, so we get into the first match, which is the finals of the Intercontinental Championship Tournament that's been going on for the last like few weeks. So the two finalists are Farouk and the Wildman Mark Miro with Sable, and Farouk came out with Sonny because he is her only client left, I'm pretty sure.
Yep, that's it.
As of last night, she ditched the Smoking Guns after their loss to the British Bulldog and Owen Hart, so now she has her one and only competitor, Farouk. Wildman comes out hot in this one, comes swinging. I understand, like, when you're facing somebody who does have like a size advantage over you, you want to try and like inflict as much punishment early as you possibly can. It was difficult for Mark Miro to like compete with Farouk's strength. For like a majority of the match, Farouk was kind of all over Mark Miro, with the exception of like some notable, like really impressive spots from Mark Miro.
Yeah, he did really crazy stunts that were unexpected, like because of Farouk's size. Like, he's just bigger, like he's just a bigger guy, and like Mark Miro landed some quite exceptional like stunt moves on him that were just ridiculous.
Right. So like at one point he climbs up to the top rope and he's facing, let's say he's like facing the crowds. He does like a 360 like spin and then does a moonsault. Like, it was so well done and so unexpected for 1996 that we were all just like, ah.
Yep, he did a little, like, he got up there, he did a little bounce and flip, because that's the thing, like, he could have just got up there and set himself up, like, facing into the ring, but he just, like, was like, I'm gonna add this little extra zoop, zoop, zoop. So he, like, was facing outwards, and he bounced, flipped, and then just immediately, as soon as his feet landed back on the ropes, he just flipped. And I was like, oh my God.
It was really impressive.
So crazy.
During this match, we do get a phone call from Ahmed Johnson, who is the former Intercontinental Champion and the reason for this tournament, because he had to relinquish the title due to injury. So basically, he was informing the announce team that like he's feeling a lot better. He'll be back before like they know it. And then he gave the WWF a warning that it was going to be a cold day in hell when he returns for everybody there. And then he got into it with, who did he get? Jerry the King Lawler?
He said, Jerry said, I heard you got a, because of course.
Oh, that's what it was.
I heard you got a kidney transplant from Jake the Snake, which doesn't even correlate. Like, doesn't
Unrelated,
even correlate.
Right.
Like, doesn't even make sense. I don't even remember what Ahmed Johnson said, but it's the first time a phone call into the match didn't irritate me. Like,
Right.
because first of all, he answered the phone and I was like, oh my God. He was like, they were like, oh, Ahmed, can you hear us? And he was like, I'm right here, babe. And I was like,
right.
oh, I was like, me too. I'm right here. Like, I miss you.
Hooked.
Like, what are you up to? But he didn't overdo it. But he was scary. Like, he was like, came with the threats, but like, you know, he's going to stand by it. Like, it's going to be a cold day in hell. And I'm coming for the title. And I wish Mark Miro luck, but just know he's going to have to face me when I come back. But he didn't talk for too long. He made his little threat. And then he just was like, all right, bye. Bye, babe. See ya.
100%.
Oh, God, I miss that guy.
I mean, we're just gonna have to wait and see for when he eventually returns. He's gonna have a chip on his shoulder when he does, that's for sure.
And I'm ready. I'm ready to see it.
So during this match, we had a special guest referee, Pat Patterson. You don't know Pat Patterson, obviously, but he's the first ever Intercontinental Champion in WWF, which is why he was selected to be the special guest referee. He's also the innovator of the Royal Rumble. So up until that point, there had only ever been like battle royals, but he had come up with the idea of doing the like staggered entrances because he thought that like there was too much going on when there's 20 people in the ring at one time.
You don't say.
So he came up with the idea to do the Royal Rumble because it allowed for more like storytelling within the context of that kind of match. Whereas when you have 20 people like in there, you can't differentiate. It's just like limbs. It's like a cartoon like dust bubble where it's just like limbs like coming out of like
and it's like cat like screeching and like sounds like bats hitting like it's and
someone's
weirdest.
like my leg like
my leg wait, that's so cool though. I love that.
Right, yeah, so he was a special guest referee. That's kind of the backstory about why he was there.
Which makes more sense that he had so much like it seems
authority.
Like he had more authority, more of a presence in this match. Because I was like, I don't know who this ref is, but I love this guy.
Right.
Yeah, that makes so much sense.
And another fun fact for you, he's actually gay. He's like, he didn't come out till like way later in life, but apparently like everyone knew. Like it wasn't like a super big secret. I mean, from the world it was, obviously, because when he was wrestling, it was like I think like the 70s. It wasn't such a big secret that like other wrestlers and things didn't know.
And that's cool because they knew, but it didn't become, well, I don't know, I wasn't there, but it didn't like become a thing, like a story, like
right. And I think it was like he was so good that a lot of people just kind of like were like, okay. Well, I think he presented himself as like kind of such a great asset that like when he kind of like came forward with that information, it wasn't like a deal breaker.
What an underrated person in this match. I did not even realize
how
100% incredible this man was.
Right.
So cool.
Pat Patterson, real gem. He's a real
gem.
Amen. So during this match, Pat Patterson ejects Sonny because he catches her cheating, hanging Mark Miro over the bottom rope. And so Pat Patterson ejects her only for her to come back later with a little bag, and she gets into it again, and Sable and Sonny start fighting at ringside. So Sonny's on like the apron and Sable like pulls her down, and like Pat Patterson's like trying to separate the girlies, but the girlies are having none of it.
They're slapping each other.
They were trying to claw at the hair. It was like a to the T cat fight.
Yes. And it was epic because first of all, Sable looked like money. She was wearing this red like sequined dress. Her hair was she looked incredible, and obviously her outfit matched Mark Miro's, which I always love because he came out with little red ensemble. But she looked incredible, and Sonny was wearing this like little white like tennis skirt kind of outfit, whatever. So I felt like she had the advantage in terms of like how she was able to move, and still Sable was like drying her off the apron, and she was like no, like you're not messing with my match anymore. But then at the same time, Sonny threw the purse onto the apron or onto
Right.
the ring, which we later found out had a literal brick. In the purse.
Actual brick in her
actual
purse.
brick, and not like a money brick, like a legit
No, like
a building block brick in the bag,
which Sable uses on Farouk.
Yeah, hot.
Which
Loved it.
amazing. And
Yeah.
then which allows Mark Miro to do his wild thing, which is a shooting star press. That's his finisher. And he gets the 1-2-3 and becomes the new Intercontinental Champion, which is not what I thought was going to happen.
Not what I expected.
Because Farouk was the one to like injure Ahmed Johnson, I was under the assumption that they would give the title to him so that they could down the line have Ahmed come back and feud with Farouk.
Yeah.
But this was like out of left field.
Out of left field. I wonder if Ahmed is like, he's not coming back for a decent amount of time.
Probably.
So like maybe they're like, we'll give it more time. Like, I don't know. Because I thought the same thing. I was like, they're gonna have Farouk win, and then they're like, Ahmed's gonna come back, and he's gonna do the tournament again so that he could take the title back, because that just makes
the most sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
And also he never he does have a claim to it like from the rip, because he never like lost it. He didn't like he was never in a match. He wasn't beaten for the title. He had to relinquish it. So typically when something like that happens, it kind of like puts them kind of, when they do return, immediately back into it gives them a claim to the story like immediately. They never lost, therefore
which makes sense.
So therefore it's like,
I'm here to take what's mine.
Exactly.
Like that kind of energy. Like it was always mine. I didn't mean to, it wasn't my intention to lose it, just circumstances got in the way. Like I'm here to take what's mine with fire and blood, whatever.
Right. 100%. So we'll see how that goes. We're gonna see the reign of Mark Miro as the Intercontinental Champion. I'm interested to see what kind of contenders come from this. Like what matches we're gonna get as a result of this win.
Yeah, I'm very curious. Very curious. And I'm curious, now to see what Farouk is gonna do. Because like his whole shtick was like getting the Intercontinental title, and now he lost. So it's like, and Sonny's like really taking L's left and right. Oh my god.
I know.
She can't get one of her horses to win the race.
No, well, that's because not a one. I mean, and maybe it's just me because I don't love Sonny, but maybe it's like, maybe if she spent a little less time getting involved in every little thing, they might win a little bit more. I'm just throwing that out there.
I'm just saying.
Okay, so after this match, we had a very odd and confusing kind of like promo for something that's going to come next week. They had taken us on a flashback to like 1995, where Shawn Michaels was facing Jeff Jarrett, who you haven't seen because he hasn't been back yet.
I have no idea who this person is.
They show Shawn Michaels beating Jeff Jarrett for the Intercontinental Championship in 1995. It shows Jeff Jarrett getting tripped by Jesse James, who was the man on the outside.
Too many J's.
I agree. So
JJ was tripped by JJ.
Right. So they show the outcome, the finish of that match, and we're all like, okay, but that was literally over a year ago. What does that have to do with anything? And then they show Jeff Jarrett's like song with My Baby Tonight, which apparently they filmed like a whole like music video thing
at a pay-per-view or something, right?
Right. And he was going to perform it like live, and I guess he did, but he was like lip syncing
very poorly. They did show the clip, and I was like, okay, like I see why this is poor. Still confused why we're airing him out, but
right now. And then whatchamacallit, somebody on the commentary team or like during this little clip referred to Jeff Jarrett as the country Milli Vanilli, and sent me.
Oh my god, it was great. I actually think that was because Vince McMahon did the voiceover.
Oh, okay.
Which he was not in this episode at all. Again, he was back for just the pay-per-view, and now he's vamoosed again.
I think that had to do with the fact that Jerry couldn't be on commentary because he was competing.
Right.
Would be my guess.
Yeah, but I think it was Vince McMahon actually over the commentary or doing like the
voiceover.
Yes, where that said that. And I was like, what? First of all, I've never seen this person. Second of all, it was like a very long walk down a very short pier where it was like showing him losing by getting tripped. And it was like, okay, but though he lost, now he was able to pursue his dream as a music artist. And I was like, what are we doing? And then poor clip of him lip syncing, and then like Vince McMahon just being like, and we're exposing him because this is terrible. And I'm like,
right.
Okay, but a year late, what are we doing?
Right. And then
So
like
weird.
and then apparently next week we are going to get the identity of the real singer who was ripped off by Jeff Jarrett. Honestly, this feels like we're trying to build a feud with people we don't know, and I can't imagine that I'm going to care about this that much. Because if a match is going to result over the reason of one person actually sang a theme song and the other person took, like, what?
It's a stretch.
It is a stretch. That is for sure.
Is what it is. And I'm like, did anyone ask for this? I'm confused. Like, were people like, he was bad? Like, I literally don't understand like why out of the blue.
Right. And like, my only guess is that Jeff Jarrett is returning and they need they need something to kind of like interject him into whatever. But like if it was me, I would have just put him in the tournament that just happened.
But
as his return. You know what I mean? Like
I would have, you would think.
Right. Because you know what I mean? Because then that like it puts him back in that like upper mid card little selection of the roster, which he was in like before.
Okay.
And you don't really have to like explain like where he was or where he went. He's just now a competitor in the tournament. I don't know what this is or like what factors went into like this being the story that they're going with, but it's
quite strange.
Yeah. It's not
quite strange.
I guess we'll see next week who the identity of the real singer is.
Yeah, and I guess
apparently we're playing the Masked Singer. I had no idea.
Where or the voice or something where we have to like listen to the voice and be like, who actually is this? Like,
right?
Like
what? And then turn around my chair, just like like.
What are we doing?
I don't know. It was all right.
Also, why is Vince McMahon airing him out? Also weird. Like the upper echelon of WWE is the one that's like just whatever.
Right. Like whatever. He doesn't have more important things to like deal with on a day-to-day basis.
What are we doing?
All right. So that was that. So we'll see what happens there. We are going to be just as confused as you are.
Come along for the ride.
Listening to it is going to be just as confused as us watching it. So join us. So the next match, we had the Body Donnas versus the newly crowned WWF Tag Team Champions, the British Bulldog and Owen Hart, with their new manager, Clarence Mason. So so in last week's episode, we talked about after Jim Cornette had his match and got popped in the face by Jose Lothario, Clarence Thomas shows up to his like hospital room or like locker room, wherever he's being tended to, and basically like shoves a piece of paper like in his face and has him sign it. Apparently that was the management like rights of Owen Hart and the British Bulldog, because this week Clarence Thomas joined the commentary team, and basically the commentary team was just like, do you think that was like problematic?
You don't think that was shisty, weird, and kind of destructive? And he was like, no, and I'll sue you for defamation if you say anything further.
Right.
But they were scrapping.
Oh, JR and Clarence were getting into it. He was basically like, I will sue you for everything you're worth if you keep this like line of conversation going. And JR was like, all right, like
still wrong, but sure.
100%. This match was great. Obviously, Owen Hart can do no wrong in my eyes. That man is just such a fluid wrestler that everything he does looks great and effortless. Skip and Zip were Skip and Zip. You know, they've been a tag team for a hot minute now. They work cohesively.
Yeah.
Is there anything more to them? Not a ton, but they're good in-ring workers.
Good. Yeah.
So we'll give them that. But during this match, we had another invasion of a ECW superstar. This also takes place in PA. This is in Hershey, Pennsylvania, this episode. But we get another kind of wrestler coming in like through the crowds, but this time it was Taz. Taz has a long storied like career in ECW. He's a huge name like for ECW. He also ends up becoming one of the commentators for the WWE for like 10 years, 10 plus years after his like in-ring career is done. Yeah, and he's just just an all-around like resource. And now he works as a commentator for AEW, and his son is also a wrestler. So
crazy.
I know.
And this one, we said, was like orchestrated, we think.
So
intentionally.
I think now that since it is now becoming a repeated thing, that it's probably being orchestrated by both companies.
Gotcha.
made to look like ECW is just kind of like showing up. But at this time, WWF is kind of low on just like talent as far as like wrestlers go, because of all of the wrestlers that the WCW has plucked from them with the promise of guaranteed money, higher contracts, more time off. It was a big draw for a lot of wrestlers because like they have families, like they have to do what's best for them. But because during this time, like a lot of talent you haven't seen and probably won't see, all went to the WCW. And since like the WWF talent pool is a little like thin, they kind of work out this like working kind of partnership with ECW where they kind of have their talent like come in. That way it gives the ECW a national kind of platform, which they don't have at this time. They're not on television yet. I don't believe they're not doing pay-per-views yet. They're very much like a local Philadelphia wrestling promotion, but
so you can only see them live, like in person
or through like tapes.
Okay.
They eventually do get like a TV show, and they start having like pay-per-views. At this point, this is allowing them to have a national platform for the first time.
Wow. Okay.
So it's beneficial in that WWF gets to use their talent and showcase them, and it's beneficial for ECW because now they are being seen by millions of people that they weren't being seen or heard of before.
Wow.
So
I love that.
Yeah, so it seems to be like kind of it's going to be an ongoing thing. So we'll have to look out for that, which will be pretty interesting because a lot of these wrestlers that are in ECW do and eventually make their way to the WWE down the line.
Oh, okay. Cool.
So you'll get introduced to some more like people that will come up. Might not be for a couple years, but they'll come up again.
Oh wow, I love when that the organizations, instead of like there's beef, but like they're engaging in a symbiotic relationship as opposed to just being like outright like screw you.
Well, yeah, because I think right now
whatever
they have, it's like the enemy of my enemy is my friend.
Okay,
whereas like WCW has so much money that they can just like throw it around. Like there would be instances where like wrestlers contract would end in the WWF on one night and then show up in the WCW the following day. Where now that's not a thing because like WWE has now built into their contracts a like 90-day like no compete clause. Like
makes sense.
Even after your contract ends, or if they like terminate your contract, you can't just go and like wrestle on other national like programs immediately.
Wow.
And that was a big part of that was because wrestlers were just like for the shock factor of it, just jump brands.
Which I also get. Like, yes. I get why they did
because it makes good television.
Yes. Right, yeah.
It's exciting television, but
I'm here for the drama.
Right. So this has kind of created a little partnership between ECW and the WWF.
I love to see it. I do.
We also had a mid-match promo during this from Jim Cornette, who was big mad. Big mad.
He was so mad he didn't even remember that he was concussed yesterday.
Fully. He goes in on Clarence Thomas, calling him like a snake, and like just he's pissed because he got duped. He got duped and got his two best wrestlers plucked from underneath him legally. And he said that it was the same night that they won the titles. So yeah, no, like that's bad. Like as a manager, like that's what you want. You want your clients to be the champions. That is the whole point.
That's the whole point.
Right. So
and to lose them when they're on top, that is not good. And like he said that he thought he was signing like a legal document for Clarence to sue Jose Lothario on Jim Cornette's behalf. Like he thought he was like signing, and like I guess that's what he told him, and then he just signed his like two best wrestlers away. So crazy. Right. So crazy. And he was like, I'm coming for Jose Lothario and Shawn Michaels first, and then I'm coming for you. I'm gonna get you disbanded from the bar association. I'm gonna get your license, like everything. He was like, I'm coming for you, your mother, everyone that I possibly could come for.
And then he announces that next week there's going to be a match. Vader and Jim Cornette will be facing Shawn Michaels and Jose Lothario, which in a tag team match, which is probably going to be more along the lines of the match I thought we were going to see at the pay-per-view.
Yes. Yeah, which now makes more sense. I'm like, okay, if they knew they were setting it up that way, I guess it kind of makes sense that it was a little flat. But at the same time, I feel like you could have done both, in my opinion. Could have done both. Because it's a tag team match versus like them just like interceding on the behalf of others. Like now it's I'm so curious how this is gonna go. A tag team with like Vader and Jim together. So odd.
So back to the match. Owen Hart puts on the sharpshooter and gets the submission, gets the 1, 2, 3, and that's the end of that.
And so happy he's not wrestling with the cast anymore. Just needs to be said. I was so sick of that cast.
I know, it was probably like absolutely filthy
because you know they only had one. They didn't have multiple.
No. There wasn't like a props department going on. Like it's just one. That he probably like just shoved in his like sweaty gym bag from like location to location. So after that match, we get a promo from The Undertaker. The Undertaker is just standing in a graveyard in that like deep voice of his. He's just like, I didn't even write down much. I literally just wrote down Undertaker promo in graveyard, like 14 exclamation points, and just wow.
Like, big same. I just wrote amazing Undertaker interlude exclamation point. That's 100%.
It. Oh, it's fantastic because he talks about like the betrayal of Paul Bearer and like
he's Mankind. Like the only pain I know now is betrayal, and I was like, say it,
100%. And then he talks about how he has condemned mankind to eternal damnation, and then he goes on to be like, your soul will never rest in peace, and like it cuts to like that like zoom in on his face, and he does the Undertaker eye thing.
Crazy.
Which is,
and the makeup department went in and did like a little extra like contour with like the cranky brow and like line. Like he looked like extra scary, and I was like, yes,
so good.
It was that type of black and white that isn't necessarily black and white. It's almost like black and gray.
It's like a gradient. Like
yes, it's like very like old school horror movie.
Like yeah, like it was on like film. Like it was on like you 100%. Have expect to see like the like cracks or like the little like blotches like on the screen.
Yeah, and hear
the film running. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my god, it was exceptional. And he's just like, it's never that long, but it's perfectly executed. Like his voice is just that tenor. It's just always so good. And he had just like a shovel and he was just like feeling out
the ground,
the earth, like where he was gonna put him. And I was like, oh, just love to see it, as always.
100%. Which all leading up to the Buried Alive match at the upcoming pay-per-view.
And they had I loved this branding. They had a tombstone or a headstone with, it was like Buried Alive with the date, and then they had these like portraits on the headstone of Mankind and Undertaker right in the like the aisle,
center, right in the center
of the aisle where the wrestlers would come in. So everyone had to like walk around it when they came in, so you just like couldn't avoid. I was like, this is actually genius.
Well, because the next pay-per-view is In Your House Buried Alive. Like the entire pay-per-view is based around this match.
I love it.
So like having the like kind of physical like representation of like everything being around this match is like
right. Okay, love those little attention to detail is just like exceptional. I love
so good.
Oh my god, excellent.
100%. So after this promo, it cuts to somebody trying to get an interview with Ramon and Diesel. He like tries to like Doc? Open the door.
Is Doc his name? I think.
Yeah, I guess. And they just like shut the door, and JR is like, that's because it's my interview, like don't even try it. And like I was like, all right, like
JR was on that ish tonight. And like first of all, what are the chances that they're both standing right by the door with their back to it when I think Doc opens the door and they're like, no, and they like push it closed like backwards. I'm like, okay, like sure. And then JR's like, no, because it's my interview. I was like, okay, everyone calm down. We're gonna get there eventually. I don't know what's happening.
We get into our, I guess, main event match, which is Hunter Hearst Helmsley versus the Stalker.
Why was that the main event? Sorry, had to say it. Why was that the main event? Why was that?
Because I guess technically the main event was the interview segment. like the last.
Which again, I say, why was that the name?
Honestly, I don't know. So
Nice.
Triple H, Hunter Hearst Helmsley, comes out in his little riding pants with his little lady, who they didn't even name this time.
No name this time.
They didn't even bother giving her a name.
Nope.
So
they're like, she won't be here long. Don't even say it.
It doesn't even matter. The Stalker, who I was surprised to see again, because I really truly believed that was going to be like a one and done kind of situation.
Yeah.
But he comes out like he like kicks Triple H's ass like the whole match. Like Triple H really doesn't have much to say about anything.
And Triple H came out dressed like a British Revolutionary War soldier, like literally a red coat. Like he was wearing a red coat with the tails, the riding pants, and I was like,
what are you doing?
And he had his so slow-mo, like took off the red coat and like nameless lady number 4, like took off the coat for it. It was so weird. I was like, what? And then the long ponytail, I was like, this literally looks like he's an extra in The Patriot. I'm so confused.
You're not wrong, but like
fully.
Yeah, but like one of the ones that gets like his leg blown off by like a cannonball, like not like
not like a he has no lines. It's just like and then like no leg, and he's like screaming. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So Mr. Perfect comes out as he has been doing to Hunter Hearst Helmsley for the last while. Triple H is immediately distracted by the fact that Mr. Perfect is there. Gets taken advantage of basically the entire match because he's so distracted by the fact that Mr. Perfect is there. And
just then standing there smacking his gum.
Oh, just watching, inching a little closer every time. But
and speaking of gum, I really need to mention he did something completely heinous. He came out actually for the Intercontinental Championship match, and he was in the ring for no reason. He spit out his gum and slapped it away.
He does that. He does that.
Why?
I don't know. So he he typically like comes out with like a white towel, like when he wrestles.
Which I saw in the scene.
And he tosses, honestly, I know. He tosses the rag up in the air and he catches it with the other one. Very similar to like what he did with the gum, where he like spits it out and then just like knocked it with the other hand. I don't know why he felt the need to do that, but go to town, I guess.
So weird. But yeah, he was smacking his gum, standing there just going like at the girl sitting there.
But Mr. Perfect is he's a really good wrestler. Like
I know, I want to see it.
He's like on par, I want to say, like with like Owen Hart or like Bret Hart. Like he's a very like very technically like sound wrestler. Okay, very big on like so he's a great wrestler. We just haven't seen him much. He was kind of a bigger wrestler in the last, like in the 80s. And right now, since the WWF is kind of transitioning from that, for like the 80s over into like the 90s and what's like coming now, a lot of the wrestlers that were kind of more prominent then end up taking kind of a more of a backseat kind of role. So if you notice, like Mr. Perfect's mostly been doing like commentary.
Right.
If you right before like this, like the Macho Man Randy Savage also got put on like doing commentary and things. And he's a wrestler. Like he wrestles, for God's sakes, he was in the first like Spider-Man movie with like Tobey Maguire. Like when he's wrestling in the cage. That's the Macho Man Randy Savage.
What?
So this man wrestles, like is a wrestler, and like the WWF kind of put those wrestlers in like different roles, and because they kind of were like, we're not gonna spotlight you anymore because you're not where the direction we're going.
That kind of sucks.
It does.
I get it, but like sucks.
And what ends up happening is they end up leaving and going to the WCW, where they get paid more money, have to wrestle less, and are just wrestlers. So
kind of sounds like my kind of gig.
Yeah, exactly. Nobody blames them for doing that. You know what I mean? Like when you have a family and you have like you got to do what's best for you. You got to take care of number one. And like if someone's offering you a buttload of money to work to do the same job somewhere else, what do you think is going to happen?
And to actually do your job instead of just doing commentary or whatever you're doing. Oh yeah, that makes complete sense to me. It's a no-brainer.
So you had mentioned that Hunter Hearst Helmsley has been on kind of like a losing streak for like a hot minute.
A lot of L's, like losing matches, losing ladies, like just losing his mind. Just lots of L's.
This kind of all leads back to a like specific incident that happened in Madison Square Garden.
Ooh, not at the Garden.
So backstory: Triple H, Shawn Michaels, Kevin Nash, and Scott Hall, who are the two people that originally played Diesel and Razor Ramon, are
Oh.
all homies. Like in real life, they're all really close, like best friends.
Okay.
But at this time, they were never supposed to like mix like in public or like on
Yeah.
television or whatever.
Right, we talked about this. Like you couldn't see them out in public, like
Right.
getting a beer or like going out to dinner or something. That was like a
So
huge no-no.
it was a huge no-no.
Okay.
So essentially what happens is it is the last night that Kevin Nash and Scott Hall are going to be wrestling. They wrestle in a match with Shawn Michaels and Triple H, or with Shawn Michaels and somebody else. Triple H, at the end of the match, they all like come out and they all hug in the center of the ring because it is the last time that they will be like together.
Oh.
However, in the
Ooh.
eyes of the people like old school wrestlers like Vince McMahon, it was a huge slap in the face to the business. A huge, like it was a big no-no. It was, you don't do that. You're spitting
Oh
in the
my
face of
God.
everything that we have like held true to like about this business, and this is how we do things, and you have just absolutely disregarded that for the sake of like your friends. So
And what? Like,
yeah, okay.
say it to
And
my face. Like,
so but what ends up happening as a result of that, Kevin Nash and Scott Hall go off to WCW.
okay.
Shawn Michaels is the WWF champion. He's not going to get in trouble. Triple H.
Oh my God, that's awful.
Triple H basically ends up eating the shit sandwich for this entire year because of that instance.
No.
Uh,
And he
right.
wasn't even in the match.
No, but he
Oh
went
God, that's
out and
awful.
participated, and because he was the lowest man on the totem pole at that time,
He's
because
taking
he
the
was like
shit.
the newest, he has to kind of eat shit before they learn to trust him again.
Wow, this is big T. And that like makes this so much worse because I was always like, man, Triple H is really like, but now like even that added insult of like he can't even keep a woman around. Like just like
Right.
driving that image, like, oh my God, that's terrible.
Right. And but the thing that was
Oh
like
my God.
the thing that is crazy is apparently like they had run the idea by Vince McMahon prior to doing it, and he had okayed it. But
No.
because the backlash was so severe, he was like, I have to do something. And like, so Triple H ends up just kind of like,
He's like the
Triple H
fall
just
guy.
ends up like being like the squash guy for like a long time before he
That
gets built back
is
up.
wild.
Right.
That is wild. And the fact that Vince McMahon okayed it and then had to go back on his word. And like, I get like if he was under a lot of pressure in the backlash and whatever, but also like, I don't know, stand by your people. But like,
Right.
I don't know. That's crazy.
Yeah. So yeah. So there's like a
Wow.
backstory like to that. And that happened
Dang.
at Madison Square Garden, which is like the WWF's like unofficial home. It is like,
Wow. I didn't know
so
that.
the WWF back in the day when there used to be like territories,
Mm-hmm.
there used to be like hundreds of territories, but the WWF was always New York, like New York, like Pennsylvania, Jersey, Connecticut, like that was their like chunk of whatever. So their home
Mm-hmm.
like arena was Madison Square Garden, and it's still like to this day, like they refer to to Madison Square Garden as the unofficial home of the WWE because they have had like huge events there, like huge. So
This is the biggest tea possible. I did not expect that to be the thing. Like you were like, oh, when we were watching it, because we were watching it, and I was like, man, Triple H is taking a lot of L's, and Xavier's like, I will fill you in later.
right,
That was not what
because
I
there was
expected.
no way I was going to be able to explain all of that like during the match.
Oh no. That's and I like needed time to process that. That's
Mm-hmm.
crazy.
Right.
Girl, bless
So,
this mess.
amen. Back to the match. The Stalker performs a superplex on Triple H and then quickly gets the 1, 2, 3. All the while, JR during this match is like basically disregarding the fact that there's a match going on, and it's
Completely.
basically like, can they like wrap it up because like I want to talk. And like it was just like, so it just seemed like so out of character for the
Out
Jim
of
Ross that we have
pocket.
like come to know, like, and it was just like, what is happening? Like, where did this toot come from?
Swear.
After that match, we get another promo from Paul Bearer and Mankind also in a graveyard. Basically, Paul Bearer is just he's kind of like whispering in Mankind's ear, like, oh, it was the Undertaker who cost you the title. Like, he's the reason you're not the WWF champion right now. Like, how did we get there? And then he like points out like this spot on like the ground. He's like, here's where the Undertaker has said he was going to like lay you, and
I can feel it. Like he's telling us like
right,
ESP. He's like,
right,
here's where he's chosen to bury you alive. Like, what are you gonna do? Like, so
right.
weird.
So again, leading up to the Buried Alive match, which as you said last week, the more I see Paul Bearer and Mankind together, the more I understand it.
Yes.
Just because Paul Bearer was so synonymous with The Undertaker that it's so jarring to see him with somebody else.
Yeah.
But if it was going to be anybody else, like,
correct.
It makes sense that it's Mankind.
Like, it's not going to be Paul Bearer and Shawn Michaels. Like, that's just not happening.
No,
like,
it doesn't fit.
Doesn't fit. But I was going to say it was interesting because Paul Bearer is like trying to get him to Mankind to focus, which already a lost cause. Let's not even go there. But Mankind is like, but how did he get in there? He's like very fixated because I think he's like, you can see he's already cracked. We know this, but you can see he's like actually shook a little bit by like how the Undertaker appeared in the coffin, because he was like, how did he get in the coffin? Like, that was our coffin. Like, he played mind games with me. Like, like you can tell he's actually like a little twisted over this. And I was like, that's interesting, and a really like an interesting tell, because like Paul Bear's almost like trying to get him to refocus like on something so solid, like literally the earth where Undertaker wants to bury him alive, allegedly.
Right.
And he's just like, Mankind is so fixated on like, he can't believe someone really got like the one over on him when he was supposed to be like the mind games king. Like, he was like, I'm the one who plays the mind games.
Right.
So I thought that was really an interesting touch.
Finally, somebody's like, he, thought he was playing like chess while everybody else was playing checkers, and like fully has met somebody that like checked him for the first time.
Totally.
And like,
yeah.
And he like doesn't know how to cope. So I'm wondering if it's gonna go like one of two ways. Either he's gonna like pull it together and like just be absolutely destructive, or he's gonna fall apart.
I'm so curious, because I can't imagine him being more destructive than he already is. Like, correct. So what a level that would be to see. Mm-hmm. But also, like, it'd also be interesting to see him fall apart. I don't know. I would be happy with either way, because either way is just like fascinating. And I think that's like the beauty of his character, even though he scares the daylights out of me, which again is his intention. But like, he's just like, either way, like no matter which way it goes, you're entertained, and it's so interesting every time. Right.
And like the like magnitude of this match is just like, it just makes it all the more just like fascinating, because you're like, because like up until this point, like Buried Alive, like, are you crazy? Like,
I still can't even get over it. It's the most insane thing I've ever heard.
I cannot wait for that match.
I can't wait.
So we finally get to what we have been bandying about all evening, is that JR finally gets to interview Razor Ramon and Diesel. But first, we basically get JR's like villain origin story.
Wild.
Right. He goes in. He basically is like, I get hired, I leave like this cushy job with the NFL, and I come here and get put in like a toga, and like, because he was at WrestleMania, whatever. And then he's talking about how he gets like fired by Vince McMahon in like 1994
because he had Bell's palsy.
Yeah. Because he has Bell's palsy, and like apparently he like insinuated that Vince McMahon was like jealous of his like commentating like abilities, and then so he gets fired. And then when he goes and like exposes Vince McMahon, he's like, when Vince McMahon gets indicted, guess who they come running back to for commentary?
It's not the Ghostbusters.
For 50 cents on the dollar. Like, he was pissed.
Aired him out.
100%.
Aired him out.
And like, where did this come from? Like, where? Like,
so unexpected, because I at first I thought he was coming for Gorilla Monsoon, because they had that little tussle
right a couple weeks ago,
and when he was like, it's the owner, or it's the head of the WWE, you all know who he is, and I was like, Gorilla Monsoon, and he goes, Vince McMahon. I was like, wait, what? I was like, I was like not expecting that at all, didn't see that coming whatsoever.
Right. And like the thing with JR is like, everybody loves him because of everybody loves him. So to give like a villain like cheap heat, something easy to do is attack somebody that everybody loves. So JR has kind of ends up taking a lot of shits throughout the years. There is a little bit of truth to, I mean, granted, this is on Vince McMahon's television show. Anything that gets said there is going to be approved by Vince McMahon. So it's not
is crazy.
But the thing is, Vince McMahon will do anything if it is going to better the product or tell the story better.
Which is why I believe the villain origin story. Because I feel like the best ones always start out with like, they will do anything at any cost to like get X result or, you know, whatever. Like they'll just, it doesn't matter. Like then they just start like doing horrible things to like get
with the justification of like, yes, it is yielding like success.
It's the bigger picture. It's the whatever. Like, so that's why I fully believe, like, I didn't think this was going to be like the first step into the villain origin story with like JR. Again, didn't see that coming.
Right.
But I can see it now, like now that you're saying this. And it's crazy, when he was saying all of this, I was like, the crowd, like they were going crazy, like in a good way. Like they were like, yeah, like, and they were chanting JR at one point, and he's like airing Vince McMahon out. I was like, oh, so like, does no one like Vince McMahon, or like they just love JR better? Like, I don't know, but I expected the crowd, I thought they were gonna boo. But then when he said something about like Vince McMahon fired me, everyone was like, boo, like freaking out. And I was like, oh, yeah, this is twisted. This is wild. Wow.
So, and then so we finally, like, after all of this, mind you, this is supposed to be an interview with the returning Razor Ramon and Diesel. Like that is the whole point of this segment. It
was a deposition.
It was absolutely, it was a character assassination.
Fully.
And so, yeah, I don't know. Well, I guess we'll see what happens there. But then, so we finally get, like, Razor Ramon gets, like, announced. So, you know, in Harry Potter, where they're, like, running through their woods, like, from those, like...
The Snatchers?
Yes, that's what I'm thinking of. The Snatchers, and, like, Harry and Hermione are, like, running through, and he's like, oh, like, shit, like, you can see, like, my face.
I know what you're about to say.
And she, like, does the, like, spell and, like, blows up his, like, face.
Like, he was stung by, like, 60 bees.
Right. That is the equivalent of the Razor Ramon that I saw in the ring today. Like, it is such an affront that they
my heart is
had the audacity to just like pull out these like second-rate Walmart Great Value brand like versions of wrestlers that we already know and love. Like, what did they think was going to be the reaction? Because if you saw, or like if you listened to the crowd, they were dead. They went silent because they knew, like, it's it's Razor Ramon's, you know, song, it's Razor Ramon's entrance, it's Razor Ramon's outfit, but like, who this?
Who is that? Who's this man?
So,
and the audacity, again, we've said it week after week, the fact that they dragged this out for like a month to just disappoint people, crazy.
Right. So Razor Ramon like barely gets in the ring. He never gets to, like, he says like a word. Like JR like asks him like
something about being back at the WWF,
right.
Or
and
whatever.
He does like the like weird like slightly racist Razor Ramon like accent where he's like, how you doing, Ming? Like, yeah, like it's yeah, and
it's bad all around.
It's bad all around, and it's just not the wrestler I want. Like, it just isn't what I want to see. Nope. So this whole fake Razor, fake Diesel thing, not about it.
No, and I don't know how that got through, and they like approved as like a stand-up idea, like just a bad idea.
Well,
bad
during this time when Scott Hall and Kevin Nash went to the WCW, they went kind of like, they used their real names, but the way that they were like acting was very much like in the characters of Razor and Diesel. So the WWF ends up suing the WCW for like, suing the WCW during this time because they were like, oh, like you're using, they felt it was like a trademark infringement on that, like their characters.
Right, because they own the characters.
They own the characters. So this is kind of their like, they're like slap in the face, like back. But it just doesn't read that way. It just reads like, oh, like you lost two of your biggest stars. So now you're just trying to like do anything to kind of make up for it. It doesn't, I don't think whatever their desired effect is what is happening.
No, not even close. I don't know what they were expecting, but it was dumb to expect that. I'll just say that. It was a huge misplaced faith.
Right.
Because that just made no sense. At
all.
But he only got one word out, and then
Savio Vega attacks.
Boop, 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 out the blue.
As he should, because he was just minding his own business and he got decked in the hallway. So
for what?
I'd come out too. I was like, name a Rican that wouldn't come after you. I'll wait. Like, I don't know any.
None, not a one.
So we'll see we will see what happens there. Also, I'm very interested to see where JR goes from here, because that was a lot.
I know, like, part of me, like, I know I've been frustrated with them, like, literally beefing at the announcement table, but at the same time, like, do I want to see Vince McMahon and JR at the announcement table beefing? Like, I kind of do. Yeah, like, I kind of do. Or legitimately, like, in the ring, like, with mics, like, yelling at each other. Like, I don't know. I kind of want to see them have it out, to be honest. Right.
Well, I definitely JR's clearly down, so.
He is down to rumble, and this came out of the blue. Seriously, like, I don't know if I missed the signs or something, but like he's been just, your not run of the mill, obviously, because JR is elite, but like he's been doing just his announcing thing. Amazing. And then ever since like Diesel and Razor Ramon, he's been a little bit more chirpy. And then today he was just willing to fight with anybody. Any little thing was a button pushed and he was activated. Like, which I'm here for.
He stayed pressed. Like
pressed.
So
pressed like he was at the dry cleaners. So pressed.
100%. Take your ticket, sir.
Take your ticket and go. You are pressed.
Oh my God.
Pressed like a panini. Every single type.
So good.
We're at Panera Bread, like pressed. Like, what are we doing?
Like, why? Like, it's just so. It's just so shocking. You're just like, why are you so heated? Like, over what? Like, where did this come from? So we'll see. We'll see what happens next.
Yeah, and it just ended with Savio Vega attacking Razor Ramon. It was just, and they were like, and then it ended because they ran out of time. It ended,
yeah. They fully ran out of time because JR went on a diatribe. So he was practically like apoplectic. Like he was just like losing it.
Yep.
All right, guys. So that was this week's episode of the New to Wrestling podcast. Catch us next week.
Weird one.
It was a weird one. Catch us next week. We're gonna do it all over again.
We'll see you there.
Bye.
Bye.